Hello and welcome to another episode of the Ecommerce Coffee Break. Today we want to revisit a topic that we had in the past. We want to talk about subscription and the reasons why that is a good way for a Shopify merchant to increase the customer lifetime value. Now, on the website of my guest today, I found a sentence which really makes sense, saying customers don't want a subscription, they want the product when they need it. And that's basically the core of what we're talking about today. I have Ben Fisher with me. He's the co-founder and technical CEO of Rodeo at hey.rodeo.com. Ben started his first business selling strawberries in fifth grade and worked as a designer and programmer in a tech startup during the first .com boom. So he's in the business for quite some time. He co-founded Cartook, a checkout optimization platform for D2C e-commerce brands that has processed more than $1 billion on behalf of merchants and helped brands add an additional $250 million in revenue in the past 5 years. Currently, he runs Rodeo, a platform for 8-figure D2C brands with subscription-based models that offer personalization features to maximize customer retention and lifetime value. And that's what we are talking about today. Let's welcome Ben to the show. Hi, Ben. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I was like we come up with like the abbreviated version of my background, which is I'm a tech nerd. I'm a designer and programmer, and I've been working in e-commerce for the last 8 years. Really focused on how to boost AOV and subscriptions and stuff. So that's I'd say that's the condensed version.
That's the condensed version. Let's dive into it. So obviously people are struggling, or merchants are struggling with increasing ad cost to make a profit from the first sale. So everyone is looking into customer lifetime value, into getting customers coming back, buy more. Now, subscription-based models are the perfect business model for that. Give me a bit of a background, why this is so important, and what's the best start to get into a subscription-based business?
Yeah. So as you said, well, I guess for some context, subscriptions have been one of the fastest growing segments of e-commerce over the last 7 years. And the reason behind that is, on average, the customer lifetime value is substantially higher. How much depends on the brand, obviously, but I typically I've seen north of three to 10 times as much value on average than, like, we'll call it a one-time customer. As more and more brands have been offering subscriptions, it's actually kind of become a bit of a catch-22, where now that I think the latest stat is 75% of brands, direct-to-consumer brands, offer some sort of subscription. So now what you have is a lot more brands trying to get a subscription commitment from more or less the same number of consumers. And so the challenge there becomes, people can only subscribe to so many products in parallel. And so there's, I'd say, less and less loyalty, or maybe it's more increasingly selective around which brands you'll keep a subscription for. And so I think one of the things that's really important for any brand to keep in mind is that subscriptions are like a really powerful model. Like, on average, yes, like lifetime value is higher, but we've kind of gone down like this road where, by pushing your subscription program, you're actually pushing people who don't want to subscribe to your product and to subscribe. And then you're having a fairly high churn number because there's just so much competition for the same dollars. So if you think about it, it's like some people will oftentimes discount their subscription by like 30% to make it attractive. The problem is that by making it so attractive, you're basically giving a 30% discount to a lot of people who will only buy once. So it might look like you're acquiring a bunch of subscribers, but if you look into your data, after 6 months, you're going to notice, wow, my churn is really high. And so, there's this important, I'd say, delicate balance, or really nuance. It's like the best brands that I've seen leveraging subscriptions, they're not blindly pursuing a subscription model. What they are recognizing is that subscription is a great tool, but there's a lot of consumers where they'll spend a lot more money if you offer them a consumption method that matches their lifestyle. So for some people, it's buying in bulk. For other ones, it's offering a more, we'll call it a flexible subscription, where you send a reminder to the consumer saying, hey, do you need more, as opposed to automatically charging them. There's a bunch of different, we'll call it, mechanisms that I've seen work with brands. And so what's important is not just blindly following a subscription strategy, because again, it's one piece of the puzzle, but It's just one piece. Does that make sense?
Makes perfectly sense. Now, obviously, you need to know your customer very well to come up with a subscription model that works. When it comes to the interval, how often do they need something? And so what's your experience there? What's the best approach to understand how often do you provide a product to them?
Yeah. So this actually goes back to the hardest part around subscriptions. If you have a shelf stable product, so like any food and drink or you know, call it beauty product, like it's not a medication. So it's not like you're taking a certain number of units per day for, you can basically predict, oh, I need every 30 days. With a shelf stable product, part of the challenge is that a person's consumption will vary by month given what's going on for them. Like, so if you're drinking coffee, how much coffee you drink will probably vary depending off of how many people are in your household, how sleepy you are. And so the best brands I've looked at is, one thing they do is when they're first creating their subscription program or designing it, they'll look at their repeat one-time customers and sort of look at what's the interval that around consumption patterns. For most products, like merchants do have some sort of idea, like this probably should last someone 30 days, but is it 30 days if it's one person in the household? What about three days in the household? So I've seen some brands be really smart around doing basically like almost surveys when someone's buying a product to help them gauge the amount of product that they need. I think the other piece of that, though, is regularly checking in with your customers to understand, are they going through their product faster than they expect? That's an opportunity to upsell them, or potentially from a customer support perspective, or service perspective, you're basically saying, hey, I'm paying attention and I'm willing, like I'm offering to tailor the interval so you don't end up with too much product. Because in fact, getting too much product is the number one reason that people cancel subscriptions. It's not because they don't like your business or don't like your product. It's because they've received too much of it. And so being able to have a system that helps you not overfeed or force feed your customers is really important around subscription retention. But also, as I was saying, like having alternative ways for people to consume that aren't just a black and white subscription that automatically renews every single month. Because you're basically playing a game of chicken, where are you going to accidentally force feed someone this month? Because eventually you will, if they're a customer long enough. And most people, once they've been force fed and feel like they're wasting their money, they're just going to cancel out of, call it like the knee-jerk reaction of feeling like you're wasting too much product. And that's a bad brand experience.
Okay, makes perfect sense. I think that the points that you're overfeeding them is a very valid point. Now, obviously, you can use marketing strategies to remind them to use your product one way, so that they just do not forget about your product. And then with that, obviously increasing just the usage or the consumption of the product. And then, as you said, churn rate, the most important thing there with an interval. So how can you tailor it when it comes to flexibility from a system perspective, that the customer has like the full control on when he wants to get the next delivery?
Yeah. So, part of that comes down to the platform you're using, as well as like the different tools. So for, as I was mentioning, like there's the typical way of doing a subscription is it automatically just renews and they charge your card. One thing that we developed at Rodeo is actually from a product we built before Rodeo called One Click Pony, where basically we called it a on-demand subscription, where you could, as a consumer, rather than be automatically charged every single month, there's a segment of customers who they just want to be reminded, and then they can either snooze that reminder or purchase. And so that was something that we incorporated into Rodeo from day one. And that was just based off this insight that people like the convenience of not having to remember to go out and buy something, but they, like, for a lot of people, it's like you want to at least verify that you need it before you're charged. Like that's the convenience piece, is the reminding. I don't have to remind myself. Like I actually used to have a calendar reminder for my subscriptions. So I wouldn't actually subscribe. What I did is I had a calendar reminder that every X number of days, my calendar would go off and say, hey, do you need to buy more coffee from Amazon? And so I created my own sort of solution at the time just to track my subscription, or not even my subscriptions, the products that I would buy on a frequent interval, because I just wasn't sure, like, I didn't want to get too much of it. And I wanted to be, that was my personal system. And so just, how do you productize that? There's other platforms out there or services that do, that will sort of do different parts of the, we'll call it the consumption strategy. Like there are other apps out there that will focus specifically on reminding customers when X number of days have gone by since they last purchased. And I think from a design perspective, like that, it absolutely resonates with what I've seen work well. It's not just subscription. It's not just people having to buy when they think of it or in reaction to your marketing. It's more nuanced. You have to have a strategy that sort of helps serve different segments of your customer base, because not every customer is the same. And what you want to do is find a way to do it, make it that's convenient, while also addressing concerns around, being force fed. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah. Now you're working with 8-figure brands, so big brands.
Mm-hmm.
How are they structured when it comes to stock, shipping out, intervals? What kind of team members do they have, just to get this whole subscription model working in the best perfect way?
Well, again, it depends. I would say that the brands that I've seen, like in general, what you're looking at from a composition is you have someone who's effectively like director of growth. You have your CX team. You have marketing, product, and then you have your warehouse. I think what has struck me by like what I've seen brands do really well is that they've invested in the consumer experience. Like they have like a good CX team. And so they care a lot about the consumer experience, and they do a lot of stuff by hand, and like they're testing different ways of, we'll say even like adjusting people's intervals and checking in to see how they're doing, and then offering solutions. If people aren't satisfied. I think they also are proactive around looking at cancellation reasons and then reactivating people based off of the reasons someone canceled, or was, we'll say, expressed desire or intent to cancel. And so, in terms of just like the distribution or the composition of a team, that's what I've seen work well. The growth role is unusual, but in the brands where I've seen them have like an actual growth marketer, they've sort of, it's might be survivor bias, but I've seen them be really thoughtful and smart around what are the different ways to tailor, basically what are the ways to maximize each individual customer in the way that matches their consumption pattern. They're not just doing blanket marketing campaigns trying to get everyone to buy the same discount or buy a subscription. I would say that a lot of the marketers that I've seen in a growth position at D2C, they're very thoughtful about how, and recognizing that different consumers have different needs around consumption patterns.
Mm-hmm. Give me some examples of industries or niches or verticals that are sort of uncommon. I mean, everyone thinks about consumables, about food, about supplements. Are basically the main things that everyone thinks about when it comes to subscriptions. But there might be other businesses that you would not necessarily think of.
Yeah.
Any examples from your side?
Yeah, I've seen some ridiculous stuff, and some really interesting ones. But so going back to like what's something that's not a consumable product, board games is an interesting one. So there's a brand called Hunt-A-Killer that basically sends you like a mystery board game that you need to solve, and then it's a subscription where they'll send you different games over some sort of time interval, and so that you're basically unlocking mysteries. I came across an apocalypse preparation subscription box where every month they mail you things to prepare for an apocalypse. That was strange. And then another one that I came across was for feeding chicken and taking care of your chickens, which I grew up on a tree farm, so I actually had chickens growing up. And so when I saw that, it stuck out to me. I was like, wow, that's so niche. But actually kind of useful. But living in New York City, all my friends, I mean, if I were to describe that to anyone, they'd be like, that's absolutely bananas.
I like this example, and that shows you that you have to think out of the box, and if there's a niche, you can make money out of it. Now, tell me a little bit more about Rodeo, about the solution that you have developed. Where does it differ to other solutions on the market, and who's the target market? Or what is the target market?
So with Rodeo, the focus from day one was really around the nuance, around the subscription experience. Going back to like the original product we had, where what we would do is we would remind people to buy again. What we saw was by combining that, our thesis was combining that strategy along with a traditional subscription strategy. There's a lot of middle ground and a lot of, we'll call like intermediate steps in between those two that you can do to capture more repeat customers. And I think that certainly that flexibility is unique to us. The sort of, I joke that we're an subscription platform where we certainly offer subscription functionality, but ultimately the goal here is not to force feed subscriptions. It's about pairing your consumers with the most effective way for them to consume your product so that they keep on buying. Like, I think you mentioned at the beginning of the show, is like the job to be done, or the thing that consumers want is not a subscription per se. What they want is a product when they need it. And similarly for a brand loves subscription models because it has, some of the dynamics of compound growth are really attractive. But ultimately what a brand cares about is once you acquire a customer, you want to keep them coming back and buying more. Right. So it doesn't necessarily come down to a subscription. It's just subscriptions are a mechanism that have been really successful. But as with anything, you can't apply the exact same strategy to your entire consumer base and there are like, we'll call it like in between steps. It shouldn't be binary where the person either needs to remember on their own to come back and buy in response to like seeing your email marketing, or they just randomly realize they need to buy it. And then on the other side of the spectrum, it's people who opt into an automatically renewing subscription. Like there is that middle ground with some people they want to just be reminded, right? Or they want some sort of flexibility, or, again, so it's that nuance is really, and I think that recognition, that nuance is a big part of makes us different. The other piece is because we typically work with larger brands. That was something I had taken away from my experience when we were building CartHook was, our team is really experienced on the engineering and brand side. And so we have approached this from day one as being a partner rather than just a vendor. And I know a lot of people say that, but for us, it's really true. Like my business partner has been the CTO of a number of D2C brands for the last 10 years. And so we both have a lot of experience working with and inside of brands. And so for us, a lot of what we enjoy doing is working with a brand around their strategy around subscription and helping them, being able to afford to help them personalize the implementation of certain features in a way that actually helps their business, rather than getting into a numbers game where we have to acquire 10,000 brands in order for us to have a business, right? So by focusing on, we'll call brands that already have product market fit, we're able to provide a whole lot more value. Because we can work with fewer brands and provide more of a consultative relationship, and that's a lot more. It's a lot of fun too. We're working with people who are really smart and talented marketers and operators of brands. We're able to complement them just sort of with our experience on the tech side, which a lot of brands, they're very good at marketing and like operations and supply chain, but they typically are fairly light on technology, and so just having a technical resource to talk through and sort of gut check some of their questions of like, hey, how might we accomplish this goal? It's like, if you tell us your goal, we can tell you exactly how to leverage our platform to accomplish that, or figure out, hey, actually, there's a better way for you to do that using another app, or, there's a lot of different ways to accomplish a goal, but you got to first make sure that the goal is worthy to solve.
No, I can totally relate to that. I'm in the industry for 20 plus years, and I always see myself with a lot of projects that I did in the past, sort of the translator, the middleman between the tech department and the
Yeah.
marketing or sales department. They speak two different languages, and sometimes things just do not match. So you need to have someone in the middle who has the capability to talk to both teams. So I really like that approach. Now, if somebody is interested in implementing subscription and wants to work with you, what's the
Yeah.
usual process, or what are the usual process steps to get started?
Yeah. So, I mean, the simple thing is for us to jump on a call and to talk through their business. So, first thing I'll do is understand what are your business goals, where are you today, and what are you trying to accomplish, and then understand to what extent are we the right partner for you. Um, you know, to get in touch, they can go to our website, hey.rodeo. That's HEY, not hey like for a horse. Or you can find me on Twitter, and my username is skinny and bald, because I'm kind of skinny, kind of bald. I'm also on LinkedIn as well. So maybe you can have these links in the show notes. But yeah, going to our website and reaching out. You can request a demo or a consultation directly through our website, or you can reach out to me directly on Twitter or LinkedIn.
Okay. What kind of timeline does it need to get started?
So most brands that we work with, they're already itching to solve these problems. And so, we'll have an initial conversation, and then you can do the initial launch as soon as like a few days later, or a few weeks, depending on it, again, depending on where the business is and sort of how aggressive and open they are to, I guess I'd say, embracing the solution to their problems and their challenges.
Mm-hmm. Give me a bit of an idea of the pricing. What can I put into the budget to start working with you guys?
Yeah, so it starts at $5.99 a month, and then there's a transaction fee for subscription orders. So it's performance based, and yeah, so that's the best way. Oh, I guess yeah, it's listed on our website.
Okay, I will put the links anyway in the show notes, so you will be just one click away. One question I have: artificial intelligence, machine learning is big in the news. It's the topic of 2023. I have the feeling I'm a big fan of AI. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I want to just get your insights of what do you think? How does that change the industry from the side, either from technology or for the merchants?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in the last 2 months in particular, it's blown up. You see it everywhere. Chat, GPT, everything. I would say I went, even though I'm an early adopter with, I guess I'm generally in life an early adopter. I'd say fairly skeptical, because people have talked about machine learning and AI for a long time. And frankly, what they often meant was if else statements. There wasn't actually necessarily any sort of intelligence. But the stuff that we've been seeing with and the applications of AI, especially around writing, has really opened my eyes. I think what's interesting about it is it's not a replacement for people. What I've been thinking a lot more is it's an efficiency booster. Like in speaking to people like my friends who really have gone deep into Jasper AI or Chat GPT, like they have a very sophisticated ways that they use those tools. They don't just enter a prompt or like a generic prompt to get the results they need. They really are thoughtful, and they have like backstory, and like there's entire courses now around just how to write a good prompt. But I think what's important here is, and I'll just use an example for copywriting. If you're a marketer using Chat GPT, actually Chat GPT isn't necessarily the best one for copywriting. Jasper AI, from what I understand, its AI is tailored much more towards content, whereas Chat GPT is really around just like knowledge. So Chat GPT might be great around creating like an avatar around your target customer persona, versus if you're generating blog posts or if you're trying to edit like ads, using Jasper's AI is probably a better fit. So even knowing when to use what AI versus another is important. But then also having the experience to be able to identify good work, right? It's kind of like you can't just come in and expect the tool to solve your problem. In every situation, it comes down to a feedback loop where, someone who has experience or has the experience to have good taste can go in and tweak the tweak the input, and then based off of that, they can judge whether or not the output is good. Whereas if you're like a brand new marketer who's never done copywriting or isn't strong at copywriting, has no experience, the result you're going to get and just your sort of taste as to what good looks like is going to be a lot different than someone who's been a copywriter for the last like 15 years. And so I think that nuance is going to be increasingly important with like to what extent AI helps you in your business. Like I do think it's almost like Excel, where people used to have that in their like their resume or CV. It's like, oh yeah, can you use Excel and Microsoft products? I do think that there's easily an argument that AI and knowing how to leverage AI tools will be one of those things that we'll start putting into our CVs. Although now no one mentions whether or not they know Excel, because you do get to that other point where at some point it's so ubiquitous that yeah, everyone has to do that or they can't even get a job. That might have been a lot more than you were expecting to hear from me on that, but I've been talking to people about AI for the last like 5 days extensively about this.
No, I think we're on the same page. I 100% agree with you what you said. So that's perfect. And I think when we're going back to e-commerce, when we're going to Rodeo, AI will at some point just help making things better and easier also for the shopper. I think a lot of AI will work in the background and maybe just recommend a subscription when it is the right shopper. So you come to the store and they already, because of the profile and whatever tracking, they can find out this is a person who likes subscriptions. Then it will automatically be more in front of them than for other shoppers. So I think there's a huge potential there. Cool. Thanks so much. Yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, like, that specific example is something we've talked about where there is that place where you can start trying to apply AI and maybe you're trying to like use it where it's only incrementally better than having a good design. So for example, like AI can't predict on any given month exactly how much I need and when I need it. Maybe sometimes the better solution is actually stupid simple, where it's like ask the person every 14 days. Or, you know, like, so something can be sometimes some problems can be solved through AI. Some like AI overcomplicates it, where in fact the better solution or the one that's going to be accurate 95% of the time is a design solution, where it's really about understanding what's a convenient design so that like, as opposed to over engineering it. Does that make sense? I wanted to add that in there because that example you gave is one we've been thinking about a lot. And like, where is that line between AI is overcomplicating something that even if it were perfect, wouldn't be able to solve the problem entirely?
Yeah, no, I agree. Makes total sense. At the end of the day, it's user experience. At the end of the day, it's your audience. If you have an older audience, they might be overwhelmed. A younger audience might go easier with that. Something to test. I think the next couple of months will show where it will take us. Ben, thanks so much. Awesome. Really good chat. I really enjoyed it. I will, as said, put the links in the show notes. Then people can reach you very, very quickly. And I would recommend they should just go to your website and get in touch with you to find out more about Rodeo. Thanks so much.
I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, Klaus here. Before you go, I would like to invite you to become part of the e-commerce merchant pro community to get actionable advice from other Shopify merchants who already have achieved what you are aiming for. Our community is a safe place to actively grow your online retail business with the support of the most amazing and helpful group of e-commerce entrepreneurs behind you. Running a Shopify business is tough. Don't do it alone. Join us now. You will find the link in the show notes. Also, if you think your online store has conversion or marketing issues and you would like to have a fresh set of eyes on your business, then drop me an email at klaus@klauslauter.com and let me know a little bit about your business. It might be beneficial for you to have me look over your store, offers, emails, and ads and get an unbiased outside perspective and guidance to help you make most of your online business. Thank you as always for tuning in today. I appreciate you. Until next time, and I talk to you soon.